1. Emily's paw. His fingertips entwine with my hair, his breath mingling with mine on my parted lips. His penetrating green eyes locked onto mine. "You feel so good, Em," Bryson moaned on my parted mouth, his lips brushing against mine. Just as we are about to kiss, a sharp, buzzing sound pulls me out of my steamy dream. I woke up, my eyes wide, my chest heaving with the weight of my racing breaths, the remains of desire still lingering in my mind. It felt so real, his touch, his kisses. It felt so real. Yet, it was not. This wasn't the first time I dreamt of my best friend, Bryson F. king my brains out. In fact, it has become a very recurring dream, one I'll admit I anticipated every night. It was the only way I could voice my true feelings, show him how much I have wanted him more than a friend. I know. It was not possible for us to ever be together. He was out of my league, and not only in feature-wise, but Bryson was soon to be Alpha and I was just an Omega. Our two worlds could never connect in the way I wanted it to. Yet, in my dreams, they do clash. I sighed heavily, twisting around and putting off the alarm clock. I groan as I fall back on my back, my eyes on the ceiling. My body was still buzzing with that ache of desire Bryson left in my dream, an ache I knew only he would be able to stop. But of course, in my reality, that wasn't possible. But in my imagination, I closed my eyes, biting into my bottom lip harder as my fingers trailed down my body. I imagined that it was not mine, but his rough, calloused fingers that felt good on my skin. I moaned as I imagined him whispering nasty things in my ear, his body beside me. I imagined his touch, rough yet tender, his scent, the way his fingers would seek my looks like "you're having fun." His loud voice, inches from my ear, made my eyes shot open. They connected with foresty green and a crooked smile. Bryson Taylor, my best friend and future Alpha of the Silver Moon Pack, the one who have been haunting my restless, steamy dreams at night. He was kneeled down beside my bed, so he'd be same height as me. But he still had to lean down so we could be leveled. With his elbows pushing down on my mattress, Bryson chuckled. "Did I interrupt your little session?" His eyes twinkled with amusement when my cheeks reared an ugly red, embarrassed flush. I nearly choked on my saliva. So lost in my imagination, I had not heard when he entered my room. I sat up, awkwardly moving my hand out of my panties after realizing I still had them tucked in there. I noticed his nose flaring as he took in a long whiff before he cleared his throat and stood up. "How long have you been here?" I uttered awkwardly, my face hot as I am unable to look at him. "How embarrassing." Bryson let out a chuckle. "Long enough to see that you were enjoying yourself, he teased. I groaned, throwing the covers over my head, my mortification now worse by his playful taunting. "Please pretend like you didn't see that," I moan, burning in embarrassment under the covers. I can't believe he walked in on me masturbating. Thank God I didn't moan out his name, though I was so close to. Suddenly I felt the dip of my bed and fingers prying the sheets off my face. I peeled my eyes open and sucked in a breath with how close he was to me. Bryson smiled widely, the dimples in his cheeks going on full showcasing mode. I was breathless, just like I always got when he smiled. Bryson was the epitome of too hot to handle. With his green eyes, sharp jawline, dimples, straight nose, perfect brown curly hair, lean yet muscular build, and tall height, it's no wonder every female wolf wanted to be his mate. His eyes drowned into mine, almost like he was peering into my soul. It felt like I was in the dream again, only that this time, I knew it was reality. The tip of my tongue pushed out of my lips, and I brushed it on my bottom lip. His eyes flickered to my lips, the smile slipping from his mouth and replaced by a serious expression. The air suddenly feels charged, his gaze darkening and causing my breath to hitch. Breakfast is ready, guys, my mom yelled downstairs, snapping Bryson out of his haze. He shakes his head, his eyes returning to normal as the grin returned on his mouth. I'm sure you're starving after that little session you were having there. How about we head down to feed you something? I know it's not what you really want, but I'm sure it can help a little. He winked, rising to his full height. I felt my face heat up even more, the embarrassment of the situation intensifying as Bryson's teasing continued. Shoo et up, I stuttered. He chuckled, turning around and headed for the door. Before he was completely out, he stopped and teased over his shoulder. Might want to put on some fresh panties. With a light chuckle, he steps out of the room, leaving me embarrassed and flushed in my room, alone knowing he definitely took the scent of my arousal. 2. Emily's POV. After I put on some fresh panties and washed my hands clean, I made my way downstairs. I found Bryson in the kitchen with a piece of bacon nearing his slightly parted mouth. When he noticed me, he sent me a crooked grin that showcased his white teeth. Were you trying to finish what you started? He teased, pushing the bacon in his mouth. I glared at him, my cheeks hot. He chuckled, clearly liking that he was embarrassing me further with his teasing. I ignored him. Well tried, too. I looked at my mother, who was preparing breakfast. Her blonde hair, similar to mine, was whipped into a very high, sloppy bun that was on the verge of collapsing. Morning, Mama, I said, walking into the kitchen slowly. She turns to look at me over her shoulder and beamed. Good morning, Emily. Did you have a good sleep? She definitely had a great morning from what I saw and heard. Bryson snorted under his breath. With my advanced hearing, I picked it up quickly. I glared at the side of his face, and when I do join him, I smack him behind his head while answering my mother. Yes, I did. Bryson jerks forward dramatically and rubs the back of his head and hisses. I rolled my eyes and took a seat beside him, stifling a laugh when I saw how he pouted. For being the next alpha in line, Bryson sure is dramatic. Mom turns around with the frying pan in her hand and starts throwing some of those bacon bits on a clean plate. I'll be doing overtime tonight, Emily, so I will be a bit late. You'll manage to make dinner for yourself and your dad? Mom asked, blowing out some of her blonde locks from her vision. I wasn't the best chef and usually can't even cook mac and cheese from the box properly, so it's no wonder Bryson couldn't hold himself back from snorting out a laugh. I sent him a death stare, but he only laughed even louder. Even Mom joined in. It was like they were mocking me. I hate you two, I grumble, reaching out for the plate Mom had set the endless pieces of bacon on. What I meant is, I've left some overnight chicken and some rice in the fridge. All you have to do is warm it up for dinner. Can I trust you with that? Mom teased, turning around to place the frying pan back on the stove. Bryson snorted. I rolled my eyes. Sounds super easy. I answered through clenched teeth. Don't worry, Mrs. Snow. I'll not have her burn your precious house down. You can count on me. Bryson made show of placing his hand on his chest and sent me a wink that may or may not have made my heart leap. For the love of God, Bryson, slow down. At this rate, we'll be dead before we even get to school. I yelled as the wind whipped against my dirty blonde locks harshly. Bryson spares me a glance, grins and slows down a bit. By a bit, I mean barely. You need to live a little. We're werewolves. We won't die so easily. He snorted, turning the steering wheel. The sunlight that peeked from the huge branches above treasured his face, and left me in awe until he turns around to glance at me. I tore my eyes away quickly, not wanting to be caught staring. I crossed my arms over my chest and answered, Doesn't mean we are immortal. Besides, you're an alpha. You're practically almost immortal with those super quick healing. And I'm just an omega, practically human. Still heal up quick, but not quick enough. I pointed out. I hated mentioning how different we are. Bryson was a leader, and I was at the bottom of the food chain. In fact, it was strange for an Omega and Alpha to be this close. But Bryson never cared about our differences, and nor did he care about the judgmental stares from the other pack members. We got a shit ton of weird looks, especially seeing as I was known as the wolf who couldn't shift. So why were Bryson and I practically glued by the hip? I have no clue, and I'm still trying to figure out why he even spared me a second glance that day. Flashback. You can do it, Emily. It's not that high. I reassured myself as I looked up at the monkey bars. They were high and my little skittish self backed away a little until I hit something hard. I turned around to stare up at Giovanni. What? Are you a scaredy cat? He sneers. Giovanni wasn't a higher rank per se, but he was ranked higher than I. He and his friends laughed at my expense. Since I was the lowest ranked one here and the smallest, he and his friends always picked on me. I thought I could show them how tough I was by doing something they always mocked me. I couldn't do, but it seems that my hands cannot stop sweating, and my heart won't stop beating so loudly. I was afraid of heights. Wolves were not supposed to be afraid of anything. Yet I was afraid of heights. Yeah, I heard a loud yell from a few distance away. I turned to face the commotion. It was a boy my age, cheering on another boy my age who held a bat in his hand. They were playing cricket, and they were the higher-ranked wolves. I squinted as I watched the boy with the bat. I knew him. I blushed brightly when he caught my eye and sent me a smile. I ripped my eyes away, blushing furiously. He was the Alpha's son, Bryson Taylor. He was one of the few that didn't care about his status and mingled with the lower ranks. Many times I've seen him in the halls playing with a few lower ranks, but I never got enough courage to say hello. Suddenly, I got a boost of confidence as I still felt his eyes on me. In my stupid mind, I thought that I'd look cool to him if I did do the monkey bars. So I did. I gathered enough courage to do it, but forced my eyes to stay ahead and not on the ground. But then Giovanni's stupid mouth had to open. She's shivering like a scaredy cat. Look at her. He laughed. He managed to draw my attention to him and his friends, and to the ground that seemed way higher than I thought, and now way blurrier. I felt my fingers slip and felt the harsh cutting on my knees as I fall to the ground. I stayed down on my knees, and in quite a shock, I actually fell. I couldn't cry even though I was in pain. But then I heard his name, a yell. Bryson, and then heard the rattling of the fence as he jumped over it and raced over to me. Shut your mouth, asshole. He sneered at Giovanni, who had been laughing at my expense, and pushed him roughly until Giovanni fell to the ground. Mommy, Giovanni cried, getting to his feet and racing out of there with tears flowing down his cheeks. His friends run after him, calling out his name. I almost giggled because they all looked like dogs with their tails tucked between their legs. There and then, I looked at Bryson as my hero. But then when he helped me get up and dust myself, while smiling down at me, I developed something I was afraid I'd never be able to stop. 3. Emily's Pav. You're not just an Omega, Em. You're special, Bryson argued, cutting through my thoughts. His voice held a slight edge. He always hated when I mentioned how different we both were. You're special to me, he said under his breath with honesty. My heart stops and then leaps again, this time quicker. When he said things like this, my stupid heart would think that Bryson meant it in a more than friendly way. But then the logical side of my mind would instantly throw me back a few steps or two by revealing that Bryson was only just trying to make me feel better. Because that's what best friends are supposed to do. Make the other one feel better. I turned to face the window and stared at the huge, endless green trees. They were so tall and their branches were thick. They wouldn't end until a few miles, but would start right back again. The sleepy town of Green Hallow wasn't so sleepy at all. Bryson kills the engine and turns to face me, his eyes holding a gleam of mirth and his mouth a bit pouty. I tried to not stare at it for too long, even though it was a temptation that I have always lost. I keep my eyes on his nose, because if I were to bring them to his eyes, I'd be lost in the windows of his soul. Oh, come on. Don't tell me you're still annoyed at me. His lips curved into a playful grin, and he chuckled. I raised an eyebrow and nearly rolled my eyes at his words. For which part exactly? Is it for teasing me the entire morning after what you saw in my room, or driving like a maniac? I asked sarcastically. I was trying to be as serious as I can, but with Bryson, I can never truly remain angry or annoyed at him. It was just impossible. He had that way about him that didn't allow someone to be angry with him. Or maybe it was me who just couldn't for the life of me stay mad at him for too long. He lifts his eyes to the roof of the car and playfully made a clicking sound, while shifting his head from side to side. For both? His green eyes came back to join mine, only that they were sparkling in mischief, while a grin so wide and bright nearly blinded me. They looked deep into my soul and made me shiver. This was one of the reasons I try to avoid staring into his eyes when we were alone. I always end up feeling things I know I shouldn't be feeling. Bryson grins. My stomach does a slight twist, and I looked away quickly. Wanting to not have him see my skittish self, I snorted out. Then yes, I'm 100% still annoyed with you. I unbuckled myself and opened the car door. When I was out, I swung the bag strap over my shoulder and looked over the roof of the car when Bryson also gets out. His eyes narrowed as the sun strikes in his eyes. It made his eyes seem gold from where I stood. Come on, you can't stay annoyed at me forever. You know you love me, he said with a cheesy grin. My heart flips. If only he knew exactly how much those words were actually true. Just more than what he thought. I didn't love him only as a best friend. I loved him as more. I breathed in through my nose and let it out through my mouth. When I'm about to respond, a friend of ours joined us. Her face shows off a huge beam, her eyes dancing when they fell on both Bryson and me. She skips towards us, her red hair flipping behind her. She was very beautiful with her wide cocoa eyes and pretty features. I would look like a homeless person standing beside her. Maya throws her arm over my shoulder and hugged me. I missed you, Em. She squealed beside my ear. Was it Get Emily Deaf Day? I winced, but hugged her back while my ears rang. Maya was the beta's daughter and would be taking the role of our future beta soon. I met her through Bryson, who was already friends with her. At first, she hadn't quite liked me and didn't want my rank to make her look bad. But then after a few greetings here and there, the conversations gradually became longer and funnier, until we were practically best friends. You saw me yesterday, I pointed out. She pulls away and smacks me on the shoulder playfully. Still way too long to not see your chubby, cute little cheeks. She pinches my cheek to show her point. Even though I was petite, I had chubby cheeks that made my face round. Everyone said I look adorable, especially when I blush. I smacked her hand away and glared at her playfully. So no one's going to even include me in the conversation? Bryson grumbles as he walks over to us. I turn to give him a fake, annoyed stare. No, ouchum, that hurt. He feigned a hurt look by placing his hand over his heart. When he's beside me, Maya darts her eyes between the two of us in curiosity. Did something happen with you two again? Did Bryson pull a prankum? Honestly, her words flew over my head the moment Bryson stepped beside me. His body heat. My stomach knotted, and I gripped my bag strap for an anchor as I tried to relax my beating heart. With them being werewolves, they'd obviously hear my quickly pounding heart. I didn't want them to question me on something I'd lie about. And obviously, with Bryson knowing me like the back of his hand, he'd know I was lying. Bryson throws his arm over my shoulder and is the first to respond. Em doesn't like fast rides. I'd make sure to remember that in the future. Apparently, my girl likes it slow. Don't you, He teased and squeezed me to him and looks down at me. I lift my head and our eyes connected quickly. My heart races and I'm not sure I can actually hide the fact that I'm getting flushed. My girl. Bryson's tone was heavy with a tease, but there was something in his eyes while he stares at me that made my heart leap. 4. Emily's POV. I sat down on one of the chairs around the lunch table and dug into my burger. I was hungry and moaned aloud. "Don't make that sound again." Bryson grunted a bit when he sat down on one of the chairs beside mine. I furrow my brows and turn to him. His eyes fall to my lips and they darken. I'm stunned by how dark they've become. "You have something on the corner of your—" He trails off, and before I can wipe whatever was on my lips, Bryson reached out and brushed his finger on the corner of my mouth. My eyes fall to his finger, and I feel the heat crawl up my neck and settle in my cheeks when I noticed that the tip of his finger was painted with mayo. With a smirk, Bryson lifted his finger and pushed it in his mouth and sucked. He moaned, and my heart leaped. When he was done, he grinned at me and teased. "You're such a messy eater." This time the heat took over my entire face. I was certain I looked so red that everyone could spot me from afar. Bryson chuckled and was about to say something when someone else plopped down on the chair mirroring mine. "What are you two talking about?" Sean, Bryson's best friend and also a close friend of mine, asked as he dug into his fries. His eyes gleamed with amusement as they darted between Bryson and I. He arrowed a fry our way. "Let me guess. You two are flirting like usual." If it were even possible, my face turned even redder. We're not flirting," I splattered out. Sean busted out laughing at my expense, and from the corner of my eye, I can see Bryson staring at me with a huge grin on his face. Great. My friends thought I was a laughingstock. "Bryce, did you see how red she got, man? M is literally the color of a fire truck." Sean snorted playfully. I glared at both him and Bryson, whose grin widened as he agreed. "Yes. Makes me wonder where else that blush go." There's a heavy tone in Bryson's voice that had a slick, electrical feeling zapping down my spine. "Yuck. Keep the flirting away from me before I barf." Sean jokes, and had me shyly moving my eyes away from both his and Bryson's. "Who's flirting?" Maya's voice flutters near. I turn around to see one of her arms slung over Bryson's shoulder as she held him close. Everyone knew that if anyone had to be Bryson's fated mate, then it would be Maya. Not only was she of higher rank, but she was beautiful and walked with grace. Bryson deserved a mate as strong as him. And that mate couldn't be me because I was weak. An omega and not as pretty as Maya. Swimming with jealousy, I tore my eyes away from the two. Sean, who didn't always see eye to eye with Maya, responded sarcastically. "Bryson and Emily. Who else? Do you see any other couple around Maya?" I shyly peeked at Bryson when Sean mentioned that we were a couple. He didn't look like he hated it. In fact, Bryson had a charming grin on his face. Maya removed her arm off Bryson's shoulders and glared at Sean. "Would it kill you to be nice to me for once, Dick? And besides, Bryson and Em aren't a couple. Bryson's going to find his mate soon, so you should be careful with your words. His mate might be someone in this room, you never know." She huffed and went to sit down on the chair beside Sean, who scooted away from her a little. I looked over at Bryson. That grin on his face is gone and is replaced by a frown. What does finding his mate have to do with this now? There's no harm in the two flirting. Sean grumbles and glared at Maya. "I'm just saying that if his mate is in the room, she might get the wrong idea. It could be anyone well except for Emily herself. She's an omega, so her being Bryson's mate isn't believable," Maya said with a shrug. There was a bitter feeling in my chest when she said those words. And even though they were absolutely true, it didn't make it hurt any less. Suddenly, a chair scraps backward, and I snap my gaze to Bryson, who stands up and storms away, leaving the three of us stunned by his sudden departure. "What's wrong with him?" Maya asked in confusion as she stared at a storming away Bryson, who managed to capture everyone's attention. Gee, I wonder who upset him, Sean said sarcastically. I rise to my feet, concerned about his obvious angry mood. I'll go check up on him, I said. No, I'll go, Maya said, and rose to her feet. Sean is quick to wrap his hand around her wrist and stops her. No, Emily should go. It's obvious you upset him with your words, Maya. I don't think you going to him is a good idea. Let Emily handle it, he grumbles tightly. Maya frowns, but nods, and sat back down. Sean nods his head, urging me to go ahead. I quickly leave the cafeteria, my eyes scanning around the area. Where could you be, Bryce? I opened the locker room, and sure enough, there was the sound of a fist hitting metal. I rush over to his side, shocked to see him this angry. He's breathing roughly and his canines are out. And when he looked at me, I stare into angry red eyes. He's shifting, and he's trying to fight it. Bryce, I said softly as I took a cautious step forward. Bryce was an alpha, a future alpha, and they tend to not be able to control their emotions when the day to take over the pack is approaching. He places his forehead on the locker while trying to control his rage and breathing. I approached him slowly, cautiously, and when I'm beside him, I reach out and place my hand on his shoulder. He relaxes, breathing out a sigh. Did she upset you that much, Bryce? I whispered when his eyes had gone back to normal and his teeth retracted. It's her damn words. I hate when she brings up the mate thing. He admits and pushes off the locker only to turn around to face me. I don't understand, I whispered. She's right, you know. You'll be finding your mate soon. Isn't that a good thing? Bryson's jaw ticked and his eyes shifted in irritation. How is that a good thing if there's a possibility I can't have the girl I want him? 5. Emily's POV. His words stunned me, and my heart leaped. Did he have someone in mind he wanted as his mate? It sure sounded as though he had someone he liked. My heart throbbed. I know I shouldn't feel this way. Bryson, after all, would obviously be attracted to girls. A big part of me wanted him to be attracted to me, but that was just wishful thinking. Bryson was way out of my league, in looks and ranking. It's actually laughable that I was so deeply in love with an alpha male who would never be mated to an omega like me. Bryson sighs and rakes a hand through his hair. The closer my birthday comes, the more agitated I get. I'm fearful of who I'll end up with knowing that the one I really want might not. He groans and shakes his head. His eyes lift to mine, and they connected. It feels like electricity is zapping around us as he holds me in an intense stare. In a few months, you'll be turning 18 to M. Aren't you afraid of who you'll end up with? He asked, staring at me deeply. I tore my eyes away from him. I've thought about who the moon goddess must have chosen for me, and my mind always wraps back to maybe an omega or low-ranked male. Omegas have never been mated to any higher-ranked wolves. It's not like I'd magically be mated to one now. I've thought about it a lot, actually. And yes, I'm terrified of that day. I admitted. I'm terrified that we won't have the same bond we have now. Your main focus will be on your Luna, and I'll be stuck with someone I have to force to fall in love with, even though my heart belongs to you. But instead of saying the truth, I sent him a shaky smile. But I figured the moon goddess won't fate me to a higher-ranked wolf, so I suppose I have nothing to fear of. You know how you higher-ranked wolves are more maintenance. I joked, trying to ease the tension. But it does the opposite because Bryson's brows knot into a frown, and he grumbles. Right. He stares at me with an emotion he was quick to mask, and then clears his throat. I guess we'll just have to wait and see who we end up with, huh? I nodded grimly. I didn't want to end up with anyone else other than Bryson. I was in love with him, and I was afraid that even with a mate that's not him, I'd never be able to get over him. You better take your time today, I warned him as I buckled myself. Bryson shoots me a grin and winks. No promises. I gripped the door quickly as he drove off. "Bryson Taylor," I yelled in anger. He roared with laughter and then slowed down. I turned to shoot him a glare. "I swear you're just trying to piss me off." The corner of his mouth lifted into a smirk as he spared me a glance. "You're hot when you're pissed off. I can't help it," he joked, but there was something weighing in his tone that made it a bit hoarse. Again, his words always seemed to make me stop breathing for a few. But then I always remember that Bryson was always a teaser, and he loved to tease me. Those words had no real meaning behind them. They were just that, words. Even though I wanted them to mean so much more. With a raging blush on my face that I failed to hide, I rip my eyes away from him and focus on the road while I murmur, "Shut up." He chuckles, and the sound sent a warm rush of tingles fluttering in my stomach. When we got to my place, Bryson said he'd much rather warm up the food in fear that I'd burn down the house. "Whatever," I said and rolled my eyes. I left him and went upstairs to freshen up. When I got back upstairs, Bryson is already seated on the sofa, his feet kicked up on the coffee table. "Aren't you supposed to have a meeting with your dad today about the Alpha ceremony?" I asked as I approached him. Not only was Bryson turning the age of 18 in a couple of days, but he would also be passed down the Alpha title. He will now be the Alpha leader of the pack, something he's been training for relentlessly. He looks up at me, and I didn't fail to notice the way his eyes dipped for a few seconds on my breasts area and legs. I blushed, and he clears his throat while reaching over for the remote. "Like I'd leave you home alone." I mind-linked my dad. "We'll talk about it tomorrow." I winced. Brent Taylor, Alpha of our pack, was a bit more stern, especially when it came to pack business. Was he upset? I winced as I plopped beside him. I let out a tiny breath when his arm slings around my shoulder and he pulled me closer to his side. "Nah, not really." He understood. "It's really not a big deal, Alpha duties can come after. You'll always come first." I swallowed the lump in my throat. When he says words like that, it makes me want to beg him to kiss me at least once before he'll never be mine again. But that wasn't a possibility. We were best friends, and he only saw me as his little sister. "I just don't want to be the reason you're missing out on your duties, Bryce. You'll take over the pack in literally a few days." I whispered and peeked at him under my lashes. I hear his sharp intake of breath when our eyes connected and furrow my brows when he rips them away quickly. "I have enough time, Now stop being so worried," he whispered, and switched through the movies and picked one I liked, even though he didn't like that kind of genre. I smiled and lay my head on his shoulder. A few hours had passed, and now it was dark out. The only light in the house was coming from the television. We had eaten a few hours ago, and now I was exhausted. I yawned, my eyes fluttering closed until sleep washed over me. It was only when I felt myself being lifted did my eyes slowly fluttered open. In my hazy mind and vision, I spotted Bryson's eyes staring down at me. "Go back to sleep, I got you," he whispered, and my eyes followed his command. I can hear his footfalls as he walked up the stairs, feel his arms hold me protectively to his chest, hear the steady beating of his heart in his chest, and then soon, I felt the soft covers under me as I sank into the mattress. He fixed me and pulled the covers over my legs to my midsection. But when I thought he was gone, I felt the hovering presence of him above me, then felt the softness of his lips on the corner of my mouth. "Good night, baby," he whispered, his lips lingering there. 6. Emily's Pav. "Bryson, what are you doing here?" I whispered, looking into his startling green eyes that shone with love. I must be dreaming. Why was he staring at me with so much love? Bryson takes a step forward, his eyes darkening with lust when they fall to my parted mouth. I let out a gasp of air from the intensity of the fire of desire swirling in his forsty gaze. His eyes caused my body to burn with heat, and I bit my bottom lip to stop myself from moaning out loud. I'm like a flickering match under the weight of his stare, and when he spoke in a husky tone next, I burn alive. I want you," he groaned, his eyes darkening until they swirled with red. His wolf was aroused too. It wasn't only him. "I've wanted you for so long. I want you so badly it hurts." His hands reach up and he bunches his shirt in his hand, where his heart beat. I can hear it. I can hear the organ beat as furiously as mine. I sucked a very sharp breath, stumbling back a step when his words registered. He wants me. His canines jut out from his gum, and he takes a powerful step forward. "I want you, and I'm going to claim you. I'm claiming you as mine, Em. You're mine." He snarls and finishes the distance between us and pulls me in his arms. He holds the back of my head, forcing me to look up. Our eyes connected and tingles rake over my body and swirl in my veins, like the fire he had flickered already inside me. "Bryson," I gasped, my eyes widening a little. He grins, showcasing his canines that were still on display. "I knew it. I knew you were mine. You're my Luna," I gasped, my upper half snapping up in a sitting position. I gripped the covers around my body as I try to relax my pounding heart. I'm trembling and lift my hand to brush through my hair shakily. "Great, now you're dreaming of your best friend claiming you. You can't be any more obsessed than this." I let out a shaky breath and licked across my lower lip, which felt dry. Pang. My brows furrowed. Pang. What the hell? Another pang cracks the silence in the room. I look over at my window. There wasn't a tree or a branch close by that can make that kind of sound. The only person, or should I say wolf, who would do this was none other than my best friend. The boy I just dreamt about. Pang. I was right. He was throwing tiny stones at my window. My heart starts beating like it normally does when he's near. I gripped my shirt where my heart beat in my chest. "Calm down, heart. Stop making it obvious." When the organ had finally settled, I threw the covers off my body and padded my way over to the window. I slid it open, welcoming the cold air to beat against my cheeks. I look down and sure enough, Bryson is standing just under my window, his arm up, ready to sling another pebble at the glass. I stop him before he could. "Bryson," I hiss, getting his attention. He stops, throws the pebble down, and grins up at me. "You caught me. I will forever be indebted to you, my lady," he joked, keeping his hands up in surrender. I rolled my eyes yet smiled. I had noted that he had no shirt on and only khaki shorts. He had been in wolf form and run all the way here. I turned to look at the beating red numbers on my nightstand clock. It's 2 a.m. in the morning. That's the latest he had ever come here. I furrowed my brows in confusion. "What's wrong, Bryce?" I whispered in a worried tone that he caught. "Jump," he answered. I shook my head. It's cold out, and it's inappropriate to be outside at this hour with my future alpha. He knew I was bullshitting him. Even if I had yet to shift, I still had wolf genes, which made my body warm even in the winter times. It was difficult to get cold. After that dream I just had, I didn't want to be face to face with him so close. Bryson looks irritated and moves out of the shadows a bit. The faintest light from the moon beamed down on him, eliminating his green foresty eyes. "And as your future alpha, I ask that you get your pretty ass down here this instant." He cocked a challenging brow. "Or would you rather I come up there and take you myself?" "Oh, damn," he was serious. Sighing in defeat, I opened the window wider and crawled onto the ledge. I looked down, pinning him with a look that told him he better catch me. He grins boyishly and winks. "I'll always catch you, he promises, his eyes shining with honesty. If I fell, I wouldn't necessarily die. It wasn't that high off the ground, and I could still heal. Slowly, yes, but I'd heal nonetheless. But that didn't mean I'd take the chance to actually fall, and perhaps accidentally break a bone or two in the process. I held the air in my lungs, counted to 3, and jumped. I said when arms quickly wrap around me, catching me before I could land on the ground. Bryson's arms wrapped around me like a band of hard steel, tightening around me protectively. For a few moments, we stay like this, just me in his arms and him holding me so closely. I slowly looked up at him, only to remember that his upper half was naked. A furious blush spread on my cheeks hotly, and I squirm and wiggle for him to put me down on my feet. "Okay, you can put me down now," I said, avoiding his gaze and very thankful that I left my hair down messily, so it would help to veil around my face and block his sight from my reddened cheeks. "Oh, right," Bryson said sheepishly, and awkwardly placed me on my feet. I fixed my oversized shirt and brushed my hair in a way that would block my cheeks. Looking up at him, he's already staring at me in amusement. "Now, can you tell me why you're here so late?" I ask, trying to move his attention away from me. "I came here for you," he said with the amusement on his face disappearing. His husky tone reminded me the dream I had just had. I gulped with my heart beat faster. "What do you mean?" 7. Emily's Pav. "What?" I breathe out, my heart rate kicking up a notch. Bryson voiced, "I can't sleep. I desired to see you." That word, desire. He probably should not use it in a sentence when it involves me. He stops, and under the moonlight I swore I could see the faint color of a blush. But that could just be my imagination. He clears his throat and lifts his hand in his hair where he scratches behind his nape. "I want you to join me for a run. Let's go to our special place," he murmured. I looked around. It really wasn't a good idea to be here with him, especially since in a few days he'll be mated. This wasn't appropriate, especially the time. Before it would not have been a problem, but I didn't want any of the patrolling wolves to notice us outside together, alone. "It's pretty late. Bryce and the creek is a good few miles from here. I'll be back in my bed by morning," I pointed out and crossed my arms under my chest because of the sudden cold wind that brushed against my shirt. I don't normally sleep with a bra on, and I didn't have one tonight. I really hope Bryson doesn't notice it. That would be so embarrassing. "Come on, Em. I can't go without you." The plea in his voice caught me, and my shoulders sagged in defeat. The corners of his mouth lifted into a dazzling smirk that had my stomach twisting with butterflies. I rolled my eyes, playing annoyed when all I wanted to do was giggle at the boyish look on his face. "I knew you couldn't resist my charms," he joked, winking and wiggling his brows. This time I can't stop the giggle that fluttered out of my mouth. "You think so highly of yourself," I joked, only for my eyes to widen and for me to choke on my spit when Bryson suddenly starts to unbutton the khaki pants. "What are you doing?" My words come out like a jumbling mess as I can't help but make my eyes roll down his masculine alpha male figure. Bad idea. Because now I'm fighting off my arousal and hoping he would not pick up on it. If he does, I will have to make a quick lie and say that I was masturbating in my room prior. No, that lie was way too ridiculous. Think about toads, Emily. Think about their rough skin and how slimy they feel when you touch them. Think about anything other than Bryson's broad chest, or his toned six-pack, or the little fine hairs trailing from the bottom of his navel to disappear in those khaki pants he was currently unbuttoning. I whip my eyes up quickly, blushing furiously when his eyes are already staring at me deeply into my soul. Great, he caught me looking. But instead of teasing me like I expected him to, his mouth only tilted into a grin, and he joked, "Well, I have to get rid of those." He tugged at the khaki pants, his eyes dancing with mirth, "so that I can shift into my wolfum." Oh, right. How embarrassing. I forgot. Bryson's lips spread into a teasing smirk. "Or did you think I was removing it for something else?" I stuttered, and that had him chuckling at my expense. Glaring at him, I huffed and turned around. "You're annoying." "Has anyone else told you that before?" I asked and bit the inside of my cheek as I fight the urge to turn back around when I hear the fabric that covered his lower half fall to the ground. "You, many times," he snorted. "But how can I take those words seriously when you know you love it, when I'm annoying?" I rolled eyes and waited for the air to shift. And it does a few seconds later. I feel the aura of his wolf strike through the air powerfully as he growled. Then the bones cracked, and then a growl emerged from his throat. Seconds later, his snout nudges my bottom, and I swear he had done it on purpose. "Get on," he demanded through our mind link. Even though my wolf has yet to awaken, I could still mind link others from the pack. I still had werewolf genes after all. I turned around and now face my best friend, who is staring down at me through the pupils of his wolf. I reach up and run my hand through his thick, soft, brown coat. "You're such a cute, handsome pup," I joked, knowing he hated being called a pup. "Bryson," I gasp seconds later when his snout nudges between my thighs, forcing my legs to part. Then his entire head gets between my thighs, before he raises his head, causing me to get off the ground and slide down to his back. "Bryson Taylor," I snapped, my face burning up. "And that's what you get for calling me a pup," he snorted through the link. I twisted around so that I would face front instead of facing the back. "This just proves how annoying you are," I murmured, not even having the courage to argue with him about what he had done. "Since you think this is annoying, I'll have to do this quite more often," he joked. The blush on my cheeks got hotter, and I'm thankfully that the wind was extremely cold tonight. It would help cool down my cheeks. Bryson grabs his khaki pants in his jaw, and then straightened up to his full height. He was nearly his father's size and was the biggest amongst our peers. Well, that was expected seeing as he was from an alpha bloodline, and they were usually the biggest and strongest in the pack. "Hold on tight, Bob," Bryson demanded, his wolf rumbling under me as he took a stance to get ready to race through the thick foliage. I gripped his thick brown coat, marveling at the softness. 1-2. Bryson darted and I squealed, gripping his coat harder. He laughs through the mind link and joked, "Still not fancy of fast rides?" With the way he said it, I knew that there was a secretive meaning behind it. "No, I rather slow. That way I can enjoy it more," I said through the link, knowing exactly what I was doing and how he would take it. His wolf growls under me powerfully. 8. Emily's paw. I giggled as the wind tossed my hair behind me as he races through the trees. I gripped his coat, lowering my upper half on him. "Thought you didn't like fast rides?" Bryson mind linked, his head twist in a way slightly so that he could view me on top of him. I smiled at him sheepishly and mind linked him. "Sometimes fast can be more of a thrill." Bryson chuckled through the link and warned me to hold on tighter as he zoomed through the trees until they were but a blur in my vision. The cold wind feels great as it whipped against my cheeks and hair. And with Bryson's wolf under me warmed me enough to not care about the chill. After a good 30 minutes or more, he finally slowed down. The sound of the creek wasn't far ahead. When the creek finally came into view, I smiled. The babbling and burbling sound was now louder. This was Bryson and I's special place. We would come here all the time, just the two of us. It was a good distance away from Pack House and a little closer to the border. My eyes zoned in on the flowing water. A waterfall poured from a huge gash between the rocks. The water flickered like little diamonds on the surface because of the crescent moon. When it was daytime, the water was turquoise blue, beautiful. Bryson walks out of the shadows of the trees, drawing us closer to the creek. When he stops and bends his back legs, I knew he was telling me to get off. I did, sliding off of him slowly and watching my footing. My bare foot dig into wet mud, and I smiled. I loved Earth. Everything Earth. Knowing he was about to shift, I walked closer to the edge of the stream and stared into the sparkling water. I can hear the sound of his bones breaking and reforming as he shifts back into his human form. Sometimes I am glad I have yet to go through this process. Some say it hurts like a bitch to transform, especially your first time. But then you get used to the pain after a while. But it doesn't go away completely. The water looks amazing, Bryson voiced. I nod, agreeing with him. It's beautiful. Yes, the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. He whispered lowly, but I picked it up because of my advanced hearing. I can feel his eyes on me, but I don't bother turning around, knowing he was in the midst of putting on the khaki shorts. Seconds later, I feel him behind me. Hey, he uttered, getting closer, until I can feel the heat of his body emanating off of him. Yeah, I murmured, gnawing on my lips nervously. Suddenly, Bryson's strong arms wormed around me and lifts me in his arms. A small, shocked scream pushed out of my mouth when he suddenly jumped into the water with his arms tight around me. The cold water wrapped around me as we both sink into the chilling water. I whipped my arms and legs around until I got to the surface and hauled in a huge gasp of air. With my silky, wet strands sticking to my face, I raised my hand to move them off. A heart-melting chuckle burst out of Bryson's throat, and I opened my eyes, glaring into his eyes. I pushed his shoulder, snapping. Bryson, could you not have warned me before? He didn't shift much when I pushed him. He chuckles. Then I wouldn't have heard you scream or caught you off guard. I rolled my eyes and throw water towards his face. He laughs, closing his eyes. I smiled and looked at him. His wet hair clung to his forehead, looking inky black from being wet. His lashes are curled with water droplets, and when he peeled his eyes open, I held my breath. Those green swirls made my tummy knot and my heart to skip a beat. I needed to distract myself from thinking the way I do now. Looking into his eyes, I asked, "Could you not sleep because of Maya's words today?" The little light that shone in his eyes dimmed a bit, and he pulls away from me a little. I instantly regret asking him that question. He looks up at the moonlight. Yes, I can't get that mate situation out of my head. It didn't help that my mom is excited and keeps talking about it relentlessly. He sighs in admission. Is the thought of getting your Luna rattle you so bad? I questioned, looking at him. This will be good for you and the pack. His eyes flicked down to mine, capturing me in a stare that had my heart racing. As I've said earlier at school, I don't want to end up with someone I don't want. How can I love her when my heart chose someone else a long time ago? He whispered, looking at me deeply. His heart belonged to someone my heart broke, and my mind raced with any possible girl who could have stolen his heart. Bryson was the hot topic amongst girls, whether it was human or our own kind. He was drop-dead gorgeous and was every girl's fantasies, including mine. But even though he spoke with many girls, the conversations were always polite. Well, when I was present, I suppose. Perhaps he had found himself someone when I was not around him. Which was rare. Bryson and I were stuck like glue. Still, even though my heart panged with jealousy, I felt bad for him. His happiness always came first, and it was gut-wrenching that he was going through this alone. My lids drop as I stare at his lips. I'm sorry, I whispered. My eyes flickered back up to meet his. I'm sorry that the moon goddess won't let you choose who you want to be your Luna. Bryson's eyes snapped down to my lips, and they part as he stared at them. The thing is, I don't only want her, I need her. And I think I'll need her even when I'm staring into my mate's eyes. He admitted breathily. Suddenly, he swims closer to me, and I gasped when his arm wound around my waist and pulled me closer. I'm pressing to his chest. My heart slammed against my chest. His eyes lowered to my lips, and the air around us grew hot even though it was chilly out. Don't you wish you could choose who you want to, Em? He whispered, his head lowering. His lips are closing in on the gap between my own, and all I could do was breathe out my reply. Yes. His lips had barely brushed against mine when we heard a shuffle in the bushes. Finally coming back to reality, I pushed away from Bryson, startled by what just happened between us. I think we should head back now, I whispered, and swam to the bank quickly. 9. Emily's pav. Ponk, ponk, ponk. Emily, it's time to wake up for school. Bryson's already downstairs waiting for you. I groaned, tossing and turning. If Bryson hadn't made me lose some sleep last night, I would probably be in a much better mood. Though mornings were really not the best. I'm up. I'll be down in a minute, I said with a hand over my face. When I heard her fading footfalls, I roll until my legs land on the floor. I'm still exhausted, but I'm determined to get to my private bathroom. I got into the shower after relieving myself and let the warm water cascade over my body. A few seconds later, my mind got muddled with thoughts of Bryson and what almost transpired between us last night at the creek. My hand lifts, and my fingers brush against my lower lip. We almost kissed. Or maybe I read it all wrong. Is that why he didn't come to wake me up like he normally did? He was embarrassed and startled by what nearly happened? Oh, you're thinking way too much into this. I shook my head and finished my shower, then got ready. While I was plaiting my hair into a long, single braid, a knock sounds on the door. I walked over and unlocked it. His foresty eyes felt like he was staring deep into my soul. Woke up late? He asked, a boyish grin curving on his lips. I smiled, backing away and leaving the door open so he can enter my room. Is it really surprising? I snorted and grabbed a hold of my bag. Turning around, I stared at his face. His brown hair messily curly, his green foresty eyes drawn with thick lashes, and those pillowy lips I always dreamt of kissing. Was it crazy for me to want him to kiss me now? Especially before tomorrow night, when he'll find his mate? Bryson's eyes twinkled and his grin widened. Can't say I'm surprised him. You're like a sloth, he snorted. I narrowed my eyes. And you're like a puppy, always feigning for my attention. I poked my tongue out and his eyes suddenly darkened when they fell on my mouth. Did you not learn from last night? His voice comes out husky, male and deep. It sends shivers curling down my spine like the bubbling of the water in the creek last night. He takes a step forward, slowly closing the distance between us. The thing with Bryson, he can turn a simple moment into an intense one. And right now, the air was crackling between us. Strange, yet thrilling. He stops until his chest was nearly touching my chin. I know. I was really short compared to him. I looked up at him, my breath catching in my throat by the intensity of his stare. Was he thinking about last night? The moment that passed between us? Our warm breath fanning against each other's lips? Was he thinking about this too? Suddenly, Bryson's lips spread into a smirk, and seconds later his toned, powerful arms wrap around my waist and hoist me up. Bryson Taylor, I scold. He only chuckles in response. He throws me over his shoulder and races out of my room. My bag slams against the back of his legs as he jogged down the stairs. Bryson, you better let me down. I scowled while my head bobbed. No, can do 'em, we're late. Bryson chuckled. Hey, Mrs. Emery, send it over, Bryson yelled, and seconds later I heard the sound of him catching something. Have a good day, kids, Mom yelled as Bryson made a dash for the door. She sees her daughter upside down on the future Alpha's shoulder and doesn't bother to question it. Bryson, I swear when I'm back on my feet, I'll kill you. I huffed. Bryson laughed. No, you won't. You love me way too much to kill me. My heart ached. If only he knew the extent of that love. We're outside. The smell of the different trees around us fogged the air. Bryson opens the car door and settles me in the seat. I smacked his shoulder, scolding at him for unfixing my braid when he hauled me over his shoulder. He only chuckles, closed the door, and run around the hood of the car to come over to the driver's side. When he enters, he stuns me by reaching over me to pull the seatbelt over me securely. His scent is somehow different today, and I can't help but take a whiff in. New perfume? I breathed out as he stopped. Funny, I was just about to ask you the same, he whispered, lifting his head and twisting it in a way where his nose was closer to my hair. He breathes in, his eyes closing. Whatever you're using, keep using it. You smell delicious, Emily. His eyes flickered open, and I can't help but notice the flicker of red swirls in his eyes. My stomach twisted with endless butterflies. I smell delicious. I clenched my thighs together and breathed out shakily. We're going to be late. The red swirls in his eyes disappear quickly, and he pulls away slowly with a grin. Fast ride it is today, huh? He joked, putting on his own seatbelt and sparing a teasing glance. I'm going to someday make you enjoy fast, rough rides, Em. Just you wait. He winks and pulls out of the parking space. The hidden meaning behind his words had my stomach swirling with heat, and I quickly pulled down the window to stop my veins from boiling with desire. Bryson swung his arm over my shoulder as we walked towards the school building. I cannot help but notice the stares we received from those in our pack. Even the humans stared at us weirdly. Why is everyone staring at us? I asked Bryson nervously while running my fingers through my silky hair. They always stare 'em. Nothing new. Bryson snorted, opening the door and letting me enter first. But this time, the stares are weird, I voice, giving him a confused look. His head leans down and he whispers in my ear. You think too much into it, Em. The low rumble in his voice had my stomach twisting again. This time I can't help but feel aroused. I quickly look for a means of escape before he can sense it. I need to use the washroom, I said in a rapid breath. He nods, releasing me from his warm hold. I quickly make my way to the female washroom and swung the door open, only to gasp at the scene before me. Shut the fuck up, you mutt, Maya snarled, gripping the she-wolf's neck and slamming her face into the mirror. It shatters, flinging sharp shards everywhere. 10. Emily's Pav. The she-wolf growls, her hand reaching behind her to grasp Maya's hand that held her around the back of her neck. The she-wolf's nails were already extending, and I just knew that she was going to shift. I had to stop this quickly before the humans arrive. Maya! I yelled, closing the door and locking it before anyone suddenly entered. Maya snaps her head towards my voice, and I wince when I see the blue in her eyes. They swirled angrily, and by the growls that stumbled out of her mouth, I knew she was beyond furious. Her wolf was also on the verge of transforming. The she-wolf snarled, trying to remove Maya's grip, only for Maya's nails to dig into the skin of her neck, causing crimson to trickle out. I cringed inwardly. You need to let her go. Calm down, the both of you. We're not in the pack house, but at school. Humans roam amongst us. We can't risk getting exposed now, I said softly, trying and hoping she'd listen to me. Whatever that girl had done to her was not worth exposing the werewolf community, especially when Bryson's father did his best to keep us under the radar. Maya's eyes swept back to the girl, and she snarls, This bitch deserves to die. Maya can be a hothead sometimes, and would be difficult most times to get under control. The only one who could get her under control was her beta, who was her father, the current alpha, and Bryson. Maya, listen to me. You cannot do this here. Alpha Brent will punish you severely. I tried to make her see reason. I was not strong enough to pull Maya away from the she-wolf who was currently struggling. Maya looks to be contemplating before she finally gave up and let the girl go, not before pushing her away roughly. Get out! She snarled at the she-wolf. Knowing that she stood not a chance against Maya, the she-wolf looked at me and then unlocked the door and got out. I quickly walked to Maya, who was breathing roughly and trying to calm down her anger. Maya, I drawl, still a bit stunned by what I had just witnessed. What did the girl do or say to you to upset you like this? I asked, a bit intrigued to know what made her this furious to risk exposing herself. Maya still breathing roughly when she answered. That whore is going around the school and telling everyone in the pack that she saw you and Bryson in the creek, cozying up. My heart jumped in my throat, and my eyes are ready to bug out. Was that why everyone was staring at Bryson and I so strangely? I looked at myself in the shattered mirror, and my face was white as a sheet. Oh, what? I stuttered out. Maya laughed dryly. Imagine how absurd that is. Why would you go out at this late with an unmated alpha male who's about to find out who his mate is in a couple of days? I swallowed the lump in my throat, my eyes darting around as I try to think. That girl saw us. Was it a possibility that she was one of the patrolling wolves? Of course she was. How else would she stumble on Bryson and I at this hour? Why aren't you answering, Emily? Maya accused as she turns around slightly to look at me over her shoulder. I looked at her and ripped my gaze in guilt as I confessed lowly. Because it's true. Bryson and I went for a run late last night and ended up at the creek. We got in and swam for a bit. There was no cozying up. A flash of Bryson leaning in, his hot breath fanning against my lips, pushed into my mind. This would not be considered as cozying up, would it? Maya turned to me, her eyes flickering back with blue swirls of anger. What? She snarled. I'm startled by the sound of her voice, and even more startled by her reaction. Maya, I whispered nervously as my heart pounded in my chest. Emily, did you not think about the consequences of your actions last night? She scowled. My eyes dropped to her hand and noticed that she held a piece of broken mirror in her hand tightly. The copper smell soon reached my nose. Bryson will find out who's his mate soon. How would his mate feel when she hears that her mate spent alone time cozying up with an unmated she-wolf a few days before? Maya lashed out, squeezing the broken mirror harder. My eyes fall to the floor. She's furious with me, and though I am shocked by her furious reaction, her words made sense. An unmated wolf who's nearing the day he's supposed to find his mate was not supposed to be alone at this hour with an unmated she-wolf. Especially with that she-wolf being me. We were not cozying up, Maya. We only talked, I whispered. So all this anger and fury she had, slamming that she-wolf's head in the mirror, was all because of me? Maya looks displeased. Cozying up and just talking isn't much of a difference, Emily. I sighed and rubbed my forehead as my eyes misted. I didn't think it would be that bad, Maya. It was just a run and a swim. A run and swim that you were not supposed to go on, especially knowing he's nearing his mating time. You're going to screw up Bryson's bond before it even started with your carelessness. She snapped and flung the shard mirror on the wall. It shatters and I yelp, covering my face before the shards enter my eyes. Fuck, Maya said and rushed over to me. I'm so sorry, I don't know what came over me. I'm just so furious that they're spreading all those nasty things about you. She murmurs and wrapped her arms around me. I'm really sorry, Em. I have no idea what came over me. I am really and truly sorry for scaring you and reacting that way. She continues and pulls away to scan her eyes over my face in worry. Did any of the pieces touch your face? She asked with concern. I'm still startled by the shocking anger she reacted with. It was strange to see her this angry. Unable to find my voice, I shook my head no. She sighs in relief and hugs me. Bryson and Sean don't need to know about this, right? She whispered with a bit of fear in her voice, knowing she was not supposed to do anything to expose our kind. Maya was one of my best friends, but seeing her react that way was frightening. And I can't help but wonder why her anger was so bad that she was going to kill that she-wolf if I had not intervened. I sighed. This will only stay between us, I promised. 11. Emily's POV. What happened with Maya and that she-wolf in the bathroom still shook me even after hours later. There was just something with the way her anger controlled her that had me on edge. It was strange to now be afraid of your own best friend, especially not knowing what runs through her mind. A part of me trusted Maya and knew she will not hurt me, but another told me to always be prepared because her anger was unpredictable. You've been acting weird from morning, Em. Are you going to tell me what's on your mind? It's not those dumb rumors circulating around, is it? Bryson asked, looking at me with concern as he buckled himself. I shook my head, my tongue pushing out to lick against my dry lips. They're not dumb if they can potentially get us in trouble with the Alpha, I whispered, buckling myself and looking over at him. I caught his eyes on my lips, and he quickly tore them away, making me ponder if I had seen him gawking at my lips or not. My dad won't believe those stupid rumors. Everyone knew we were best friends for years. Going on a run shouldn't even be a problem. Bryson rolled his eyes and gripped the steering wheel and started the car. I sighed heavily, ripping my gaze from his chiseled face that made my heart skip in awe. He was absolutely perfect, and he didn't know how much I wanted him. If he knew, it wouldn't be much of a difference. We were too different and not fated. You're right. But he would not want to have them circulate and spoil whatever chance you have with your mate. Bryson, suddenly a firm, powerful voice cracked through the mind link. Get inside my office, the two of you, now. His alpha tone was present and had a shiver tickle down my spine. It wasn't the pleasant shiver his son normally caused. No. This one had fear eating me up. Bryson and I looked at each other, the exact moment the link cut off. His dad had mind-linked the both of us at the same time. We're in trouble, aren't we? I whispered with a bit of panic, getting loose in my voice. Bryson's bottom lip sneaks in between his teeth and he bites. His reaction both had me aroused and panicked. Noticing my panicking gaze, Bryson reached out, his thumb brushing along my cheek. It feels like fire from his touch had passed between his thumb and settled on my cheek. Hey, Em. Everything's fine. I'm sure it's nothing. We'll go see what he called us in for. It will be okay, he promised, eyes dipping to my lips, but quickly tearing away. He sighs, almost in defeat, and pulls away from me. Suddenly his palm lands on my thigh, startling me and having me heating up instantly. His touch burns through my skin, tickling my veins with heat. I'll always be by your side, Em. There's nothing to worry about when I'll be right beside you, he promised, and pulled out of the parking lot. But he didn't pull his hand away from my thigh. No. It remained there the rest of the ride until we arrived at the pack house. You two have caused a bit of a ruckus in the pack, Alpha Brent grumbled, crossing his arms over his chest, a brow lifted as he regarded us. I gulp, looking over at Bryson nervously. I knew this had to do with those rumors. I knew they would get us in trouble. Whatever you heard, it's not true. Em and I went on a run, and I admit it was really late, but I couldn't sleep. And she was the only one who could calm me down. That patrolling wolf saw nothing, and only exaggerated on what she saw, Bryson told his father, keeping his chin up. Alpha Brent nod, and then sweep his gaze over to me. Emily, can I have a moment to speak to my son? I looked over at Bryson, and then tore my eyes away. I nod at my Alpha, and said politely, Yes, Alpha. I'll meet you in my room, Em. I'll be there soon, Bryson promised. I nod and walked out of the door, but don't reach far and eavesdrop on their conversation. I knew it wasn't a good thing to do, but I was curious. Bryson, I know Emily means a lot to you. Everyone knows how much she means to you. But you'll be getting your mate soon, and it's unlikely that you two would be fated. You need to distance yourself away from her for a bit until you find your mate. Being around an unmated she-wolf, especially with you and her being so close, would cause problems for you and your mate. I couldn't hear any longer. I needed away from these hurtful words. I gulped and hurried down the stairs. Alpha Brent's words hurt me a lot, but I knew he had only good intentions. His son was supposed to take over the pack soon. He had to have strong Luna by his side. Me being in the middle of this upcoming bond wouldn't be good. It was already clear that Bryson and I were like two peas in a pod. When his Luna sees how close we are, she'll obviously not like it. And that's normal. I literally raced out the pack house and down the pitched road, passing some of the pack members who looked at me in curiosity. I kept walking quickly until I could no longer see the pack house, and I was only surrounded by green, thick trees. But 5 minutes into the walk and the sound of tires rolling on the road reaches my ears. I don't have to turn to know who it was. I can somehow already sense his eyes on me. He drives slowly to keep up with me and rolls down his window. "Get in 'em," Bryson utters. I crossed my arms under my breasts stubbornly and swept my gaze over to him for a few. "I'll walk, Bryson. Your father is right, you know. We should keep our distance until you're mated with your Luna," I whispered and trained my eyes back on the road. "I have a good distance to walk to get home." "Get in the car, Em," Bryson growled, suddenly sounding a bit frustrated and irritated. I know he didn't like me mentioning his incoming mate bond, but he'll have to suck it up, because it's coming soon and fast. And the quicker he stops getting angry at the thought of getting his Luna, the better it would be for him. "No," I said stubbornly and kept walking. Suddenly the car comes to a screeching halt, and then a second later, the door opens and footsteps furious and quick dash towards me. "Bryson," I gasped as he hauled me over his shoulder quickly, dangling me like sack of potatoes. His response was a firm slap to my ass and a growl. "I'll be happy to feed those rumors more fuel if you don't get inside my car. What other wolf is roaming around to catch a glimpse of us?" How about we give them a show?" his beast growled. 12. Emily's POV. If I could earn money for how many times I blushed today, I'd be a millionaire. Bryson's palm was still on my ass, and he stopped moving towards the car. He turns around a couple of times. Being dangled upside down didn't make me see who or what he was looking for, so I had to resort to asking him and then demanding that he place me back on my feet. "What are you looking for, and put me down, you big idiot?" I smacked his butt and he growled. "Stupid alpha male. I'm looking for an audience. I need them to fuel those rumors," he uttered without a care in the world. My heart leapt. Bryson was crazy to want to fuel these rumors. What would his mate think when he finds her? "Bryson, stop kidding around and place me down on my feet," I demanded with a harsh blush on my face. It didn't help that all the blood was now running down to my head. But I'm not. What was he doing? "Don't you dare get wet between your thighs right now, Em. Hold it together." "Bryson!" I squeal, thrashing around to get him to place me down on my feet. "Stop, Bryson," I snapped. "Oh, goddess, I'm getting aroused." "I'll stop. But you must promise to get in the car," he said, his tone more gruff than usual. I thought about it. Would it really be the best for someone to pass by and catch us in this position? Or would it be better to get in his car? Of course, the second option sounded better. The first would land us in even more trouble than we were in now, and there was no way I'd let Bryson's bond with his mate be ruined before it even started. Even though I wanted him badly, I was choosing to make sure his happiness comes first. The same he'd do for me. "Fine. I'll get in," I said in defeat, sagging on his shoulders and giving up the fight I had already lost anyway. "I would have thrown you in anyway," Bryson snorted and walked towards his car. He settled me on my feet and I took that chance to smack him on his chest. "You're such a big idiot," I snapped, glaring up at his satisfied face. He leans down, his face breaths away from my own. Our eyes are connected and all I can feel was my heart pumping blood into my veins quickly. "Get in," he whispered, his lips parting into a smirk before he reaches up and pinches my nose. I swat at his hand, scowling, and got into the car. He chuckles and closed the door and rushed around the hood to get to the driver's side. When he's in, I turned to him. Were you really going to risk getting into more trouble to get your way? He looked at me, his eyebrow lifting. I'd do anything to make sure you're safe in any way. There's no way I'd have you walking the entire way back to your home on foot. Especially when there were sightings of rogues roaming around the border recently. The border was far from my home, so his second point wasn't valid. But the first made sense. Bryson would never let me walk back to my house alone. Not even when we argued for petty things in the past. He always made sure I got home safe. But did he really have to go far this time by squeezing my bottom? This was the first time he had ever done something so bold like this, and sure, it was for him to get his way, but I can't help but feel like there was something else. Hey, Bryson whispered, pulling me out of my thoughts. Yeah, I murmured. His eyes fluttered down, gazing at my lips. What would you think of me if I reject my fated one for the one who had my heart for years? His question made my brain freeze. Where did this even come from? An alpha rejecting his fated mate never ends up well. They were fated for a reason, and rejecting their Luna in more than one cases causes the pack to lose their strength. I swallowed. He had placed me in a difficult spot. How can I answer something such as this? I swallowed again, trying to remove the lump in my throat. Bryson keeps surprising me a lot today. I darted my eyes between both of his, trying to see if he was joking or not. He was serious. Then I would think of you as an idiot. A very big one. You're not only supposed to only think about yourself, Bryce, you're also supposed to think about the pack. You're an alpha. You need your destined mate to be stronger. I uttered, feeling shitty for basically telling him screw the girl he's in love with. The light in his eyes dimmed and I instantly feel bad. His jaw clenched and he peeled his eyes away from me. I miss those green swirls. What if I want to be selfish for once, Em? He gritted and started the car. My eyes narrowed on his face. He was upset. Extremely. You're really in love with her, huh? I whispered and cursed myself when my voice cracked with emotion. Bryson's hands gripped around the wheel tighter as he answers. Yes, for years. My heart feels like it was tearing apart. It hurts. It feels like I'm drowning yet. Feels like someone is continuously stabbing the beating organ with a silver blade. I let out a shaky breath and took a sharp one into my lungs. Now I'm curious to know the girl who has my best friend in the palm of her hands. I joked, even though I'm literally breaking inside. I'm curious to know the girl, yet don't want to know her. It's a constant tug between want and don't. Bryson spares me a glance. It's deep, and had me sucking in another sharp breath. She's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. Someone who takes my breath away. Someone I longed for years. He admitted, and placed his eyes back onto the road. I moved my eyes off him, blinking quickly so that I would not cry right now. You're not going to tell me who she is, are you? I whispered, even though I knew the answer. No, thanks for the ride, Bryce, I said, and unbuckled myself and got out. Bryson gets out too, and I shifted my confused gaze to him. Can I spend a few more hours with you? Not today, Bryson. Your dad informed me of what's going on. It would be best if you get back to the pack house and keep your distance from him at specific times, like right now. Alpha Brent said you two should not be seen alone, but can be accompanied by others. Mom suddenly said as she stepped out of the front door. And I'm off for a late shift at the hospital, and Emily's dad would not be home until another hour. She continued. I looked at her horrified and looked over at Bryson, whose mouth tightened in displeasure. But he nodded stiffly and looked down at me. I guess I'll see you tomorrow, he gritted out in annoyance. I nod. He then gets into his car and drives off. I look over at Mom, who looks torn. She stares at me in pity. This will pass. As soon as he gets his mate, you'll be able to be with him alone freely. There would be no reason to be cautious around him anymore. I doubted it. 13. Emily's paw. Of course dead at night. while it's cold and the lone wolves howl. A tapping sound breaks on my window. I had a feeling he wouldn't let up easily. If I knew one thing about Bryce, it would be that he couldn't stay not a second without seeing me or hearing my voice before he slept off. He probably couldn't sleep again too. I move off my bed, my bare feet padding against the cold tiles as I trace over to the window. I open it, not sure if to smile or scold. We can get into trouble with his dad. The entire pack, too. But Bryson clearly didn't care about the consequences, and neither did I. Bryson appears out of the bushes, in nothing but some loose sweats, upper half free of any shirt, but had the shirt clutched in his hand. He's packed with muscle, toned, sexy muscles. It takes me a good few to remove my gaze from his chest. But it's difficult to keep my mind off the image. He was so hot. He was by far the most handsome guy I have ever seen. He calls down, his grin eating up half his face. He looks happy and relieved to see me. It has only been a few hours. Or should I say, Rapunzel. Rapunzel, let down your hair? His grin is infectious, and I find myself returning his happy grin. His eyes danced under the little bit of moonlight that cascaded down on him. You're not supposed to be here. I raised a brow, pretending to scold him. He shrugs. You know it would take an army to keep me away from you. In fact, he took a step forward until he was directly under my window. Not even that can keep me away from you, Emily. When he say things like that, my heart refuses to calm down. It stutters in my chest, then continued to beat quickly. You'll get into trouble. I warned him breathlessly. Would he notice my reaction to his words? The skip of my heart, my flustered face? If he did, he didn't show it. He shrugged. I don't mind going through hell and back just to see you, Em. But I need to touch you too. I bit into my bottom lip harshly. He was making this difficult for me. Difficult to let him go. I clutched the windowsill, my fingers digging into it. If they catch us, he cuts in. To hell with them, if they do. Come on, break the rules a little. I shook my head. Easy for him to say. He was the Alpha's son, and I'm practically still human without my wolf. But the thing is, I'd do anything for Bryson. He was not only the guy I was in love with, but was also my best friend. So I gave up, without even putting much of a fight. I'm in shorts, a very tight tank top with no bra. I'm tempted to not put one on, just to see his reaction, but I thought better of it. I'll be down in a second, I told him, ready to turn around to put on a bra. But Bryson stops me. A second is too long. Jump now, I'll catch you. I bit into my bottom lip. I'm not properly dressed, Bryce. I don't think it's appropriate to go out like this if there's a potential that someone can see us. There is no one roaming around where we are heading off to. I don't think anyone would see us. Besides, I think I've seen you in far less. I blushed furiously. He was right. He had seen me in far less. And before you think something else, I'd like to say that he only saw me in a bikini and panties and bra. Nothing less. I hummed in thought before saying fuck it and crawl back to the window. You better catch me, I warned him, narrowing my eyes at his handsome face down below. His smile was dazzling, making me feel warm inside. When have I never? I grinned, getting myself through the window before jumping. Of course, Bryson catches me instantly, holding me close to his chest protectively. If anyone were to catch us like this, they'd think we were doing something we were not supposed to. I stared up into his eyes, holding my breath at the wolfish grin he flashed me. He set me down on my feet, his hands holding me close as if reluctant to let me go. I bit into my fleshy lower lip and saw the flicker of his wolf in his eyes as they drowned into my stare. It was cold out, freezing, though our body temperatures can take on cold like this. But instead, I took a step back and cleared my throat. Where are we off to? Bryson reluctantly removed his gaze off my chest, looking flushed under the dim moonlight. Our place. The wolfish grin returned as he spun around, taking a few steps forward. I turned around when he started removing his sweats, and in seconds, his shifted form nudges my leg, get on, and ride me. I sucked in a sharp, shaky breath when those words fluttered inside my head through the link. Why did those words sound as though they held more meaning behind them? I shivered when his snort nudged my thigh. 14. Emily's pav. The run to the creek was a bit faster tonight. I clutched Bryson's soft fur as he slows down. I loved to hear the sound of his paws digging into the earth. Sometimes, I admit, I was a bit jealous that he could shift and enjoy this while I couldn't. I longed to feel my own paws digging in the earth, hear the sound of the chirping birds clearer, feel the wind rushing through my fur. I wondered what the color of my fur would be. Would I like it? I longed to hear my wolf too. Since I had not shifted, my wolf was still dormant. I couldn't hear her yet. Bryson came to a stop, bending slightly so I could get off him safely. A growl, low and rumbling, came from his beast's jaws. I looked at him confused. What's wrong? I questioned nothing. His response left me confused, but I don't try to push him to answer me. He paused behind a huge tree, and I turned around to give him some privacy. He was right about the wolves not being close. I can feel them miles away. I smiled sadly. If only we could hang out without having the fear of being seen together alone. Why did everything have to be complicated? Suddenly, arms wrap around my middle, bringing me close to a hard chest. I gasped, my eyes widening when he pulled me into his arms and took off to the creek. "Bryson!" I screeched. I had no intentions of swimming in the creek tonight. But I guess Bryson had other plans. He laughed happily and then jumped in with me in his arms. The cold water wrapped around my body like a band of steel, just like his arms clutched around me. He pulled me up along with him until we surfaced. He laughed, eyes dancing, hair dripping and clinging to his forehead as he peered down at me. "You dick?" I glared, scowling. He got me all wet. He grinned, a twinkle in his eyes letting me know his thoughts had strayed to somewhere inappropriate. It made me flush. He smiled and nuzzled my neck. When his hot breath brushed against that sensitive spot between my neck and shoulder, something strange happened. I moaned when I felt a powerful shock on that spot until it began to itch. "I can stay like this forever," he whispered, lips brushing that tickling, itching spot. I gripped his shoulder, nails digging into skin. I'm not sure what came over me, but suddenly my entire body buzzed with fire that boiled in my veins. "Just me and you, It will always be just me and you," he whispered, shocking me when his lips suddenly met my skin with a soft kiss. I moaned, burying my head in his hair as I breathed him in. Something was off with my body. What the hell was happening to me? I pressed closer to him, my breathing quickening. I can hear his too, and it sounded rougher than mine. Bryson groaned, his hands now trailing down, nearing my bottom. A snap sound pulls me out of the fog I had been in. Stunned beyond words, I push off Bryson and swam away from him quickly. Bryson called out in a rush. I knew he was behind me. His voice was too close. I reached the bank quickly and got out of the freezing water. My clothes clung to me like a second skin as I whip out of the water, breathing heavily. I'm not sure what just happened, or why that certain spot on my neck tingled and itched so badly. Nor could I explain why a fire burned in my body when Bryce held me and kissed my neck. Bryson's voice reached my ears as his fingers wrapped around my upper arm, pulling me back gently and turning me around to face him. My gaze dropped down to the wet soil and I swallowed. Bryson started, as if on the tip of apologizing, but he had nothing to apologize for. If anything, it was me who should apologize for moaning in his ear like some female dog in heat. I flushed awkwardly, shifting on my feet as nerves built in my stomach. I opened my mouth to tell Bryson we should forget about whatever just happened, when another twig snapped and cut me off before I could begin. Bryson grip around my arm tightened, and he pulls me behind him when a dirty, cream-colored wolf emerged out of the bushes. It snapped its jaws, eyes holding a dangerous glint that made me shiver as I cower behind my alpha male best friend, who snarled in warning. "Stay behind me, baby," Bryson growled, eyeing the dirty rogue before him. 15. Emily's pav. Baby, baby, baby. That word rang in my head despite the knowing threat that was snarling just a couple of feet from us. My mind went into a frenzy, thoughts rummaging through my head as I tried to think of a possible reason he called me baby. My heart leapt. Was I reading into this too much? Bryson was soon to be alpha, soon to find his mate who would rule over the pack with him. And that mate would surely not be me. Yet, I can't help but wonder why he would call me baby. Was it a slip of the tongue? Was it just that? A damn word with no meaning? I believe it was. I needed to believe it was. For my sanity. To crush the hope that bubbled just under the surface. He was an alpha. It was unlikely he'd be my mate. Not when I was an omega, practically human since I had yet to shift to. I held no hope that he would be. That would have just been wishful thinking. Beside, Bryson didn't see me as anyone but his little sister. And he did confess to love his mysterious girl he'd cut a bond with his mate for. Whoever this mysterious girl is, she sure scored someone special. I'm tugged out of my thoughts harshly when Bryson suddenly pushed me backward. I stumbled, falling into the water seconds after the dirty rogue lunged forward. Bryson shifted midair as he too lunged forward. My heart froze, just as cold as the water that wrapped around me. It was likely that the rogues were attacking because word got out our young alpha was about to be passed down the title. It was clear when those rogues ended being only male. They wanted to fight Bryson for the title before he is reigned as our new alpha. Being that our pack was one of the strongest, who wouldn't want to rule over it? Quickly got out of the water, watching in terror as the rogue and Bryson went at it. Bryson, of course, was winning, but what frightened me was those glowing eyes I could spot in the bushes. There were about 4 pairs, and soon, they joined their dirty friend. Bryson was outnumbered and I felt useless. My heart was ringing in my ears, the beats painful as I began to panic Alpha. "Alpha! We need your help!" I screamed through the link. My eyes widened when I saw one of the rogues bite into Bryson's leg, Emily. What is it his alpha tone made me whimper? It's Bryce. I didn't even have time to finish before Alpha Brent cut in. I'm on my way. My fingers tremble as I looked for something to use as a weapon to help Bryson fend off those hungry rogues who sought for his title. I may not be able to shift, but I still had some of that werewolf strength that came with the territory. And I will use it to my full capacity to help in any way I can. I ended up picking up a huge log that weighed a couple ton. I didn't care about the weight. All I cared about was helping Bryson fend off his attackers. He could take them, there was no denying it. But I knew he was holding back because of me. He was worried about me, sneaking glances my way every second to make sure I was safe. This let the offenders take full advantage of his lack of attention on them. And I couldn't have that. I couldn't have Bryson risking himself to make sure that I was okay. So I did what I had to do. I fought for him too. To protect him too. And I would do it again. I launched forward, my feet so light they didn't hear me despite me being so quick. That was one of the things I was at least useful in. Running. I was quick on my feet, light too. I clutched the log tightly in my grasp, my nails digging into the wood as I lifted up high above my head and sent it flying straight down on one of the rogues' head. It yelped, head digging into the dirt as the log weighed down on his skull. The others snarled, one of them ready to launch forward and attack me. but Bryson's nails dig into it undercoat, meeting its stomach where his nails pierced through and garnered blood. The crimson was dark as it coated the rogue's fur. The other tried to bite off Bryson's neck, but Bryson ended up catching its neck with his jaws. With a snap, the wolf neck tilted, the light in its eyes dying. The one I had pinned under the log was bleeding down from its head, the blood blinding its eyes. Just as Bryson was about to kill off the rest, 4 wolves from our pack emerged out. The first one was obvious. Alpha Brent. The second, Sean. And the other 2 were frontline warriors. Alpha Brent launched forward and killed the rest, snarling loudly with rage as he does so. It was obvious he was furious that the rogues attacked his son. Sean rushes over to me, nudging me with his snort. "You okay, Em?" I nod down at him, still shaking like a new leaf in the wind. Suddenly, a powerful, angry growl made the little hairs behind my neck stand on end. "Bryson," he barked through the mind length. 16. Emily's Pav. I squirmed, my gaze dropping to the ground. Bryson was angry with me, and I had a feeling I knew why. I played with my fingers, stunned when I heard his bones breaking. He was shifting back into his human form, and was bounding over to me. "What the hell were you thinking, Em? Getting into the fight. You could have gotten seriously injured," he hissed, arms now reaching out for me. I stared at his bare foot, embarrassed to look up into his eyes for 2 reasons. 1, scared to see his anger arrowing to me. 2, to catch a glimpse of him completely naked. Bryce, though, didn't seem to care. His finger pressed under my chin, tilting it back up so our eyes would connect. I can feel just how angry he is from the way his fingers shook under my chin. I keep my gaze down, but it turned out to be a bad idea. I flushed brightly, burning like someone had lit me on fire when my eyes came into contact with a well-endowed part of him. It was dark out, but I could still see. I quickly lift my gaze, now embarrassed to stare at him. My face was hot and red. "You could have gotten hurt, Em." His voice got lower, worry now replacing the once anger that trembled in his voice. His eyes penetrate through mine, keeping me locked in his gaze. I can't pull myself away, and nor can he. "I'm sorry," I whispered, knowing that I had worried him a lot when I got involved with the fight. "I just couldn't let you fight on your own, especially seeing as you couldn't focus because you were worried about me," I admitted. Bryson's gaze softened, and he was going to pull me into his arms when I heard bones cracking, and the sound of someone clearing their throat. "Maybe not while you're naked, bro?" Sean joked a couple of feet behind us. Bryson didn't move away from me, but didn't hug me either. I was the one who took it upon myself to move away from him, to stop the tension crackling in the air. I looked away from the boys, biting my lip when Bryson's father shifted into his human form. I could feel our alpha's rage. The fury trembled in the air until I could taste it. "Bryson!" he roared, his alpha tone making me squirm and bend my head. Alpha Brent got dressed. "What the hell were you and Emily doing out here late? And only the 2 of you," he snapped. I stumbled back a step in fear at the sound of his loud, booming tone. But Bryson latched onto my hand and tugged me forward to stand beside him. Mind you, Bryson was still as naked as the day he was born, which caused my face to flame up. Em and I went for a run. We didn't plan to get surrounded by those nasty bastards. Bryson gritted out. I can only stare at his face, ashamed to make my eyes wander elsewhere. Alpha Brent's eyes shifted in annoyance. "I thought I told you to Bryson cut him off. Nothing can keep me away from Emily, Dad. You, of all people, should know why." Alpha Brent's jaw ticked as if he was ready to explode when his son cut through his words. But instead of doing what any alpha would have done because of the disrespect, Alpha Brent only sent a sharp warning glare Bryson's way. While their eyes fogged, I wondered what Bryce meant by his words. What did he mean, you of all people should know why? Was there something I didn't know? Minutes seemed to pass by as the Alpha and his son argued through their link. It was obvious there was tension as they practically shot angry stares at each other. I squeezed Bryson's hand, hoping it would help relax the stiffness in his stance. It helps, and he visibly relaxes. Seconds ticked by until the fog in their eyes moved and their eyes returned to normal. Alpha Brent nodded and shifted his gaze to me. "Go home, Emily." Bowing my head to my Alpha, I nodded and took a step forward, but Bryson gripped me hard. Startled by the firm grip, I looked at him, but he wasn't looking at me. His eyes were on his dad. The Alpha. "I'll take her home." Alpha Brent's anger returned and it cackled through the air and I winced. "You home now," he hissed at his son. Bryson looked like he was on the verge of arguing, but I shook my head, pleading with him using my eyes. "It's okay, Bryce. I can go by myself," I whispered. His eyes are hard on his dad while he responded. "I'll take you home, Em." His grip on my hand tightened instead of loosening. Alpha Brent growled in warning, and thankfully Sean stepped in before things escalated. "I'll take her home, Bryson. Don't worry, I'll protect her and make sure she gets home safe." Sean intervened. Bryce doesn't look like he'd agree, but I pleaded with him. "Please, Bryce." "I'll be okay," I mind-linked him. "It takes him a few to agree." "Keep your window open for me tonight." Bryson mind-links, and shifted into his wolf form before disappearing into the thick foliage. 17. Emily's pav. I'm clutching Sean's fur as he races through the thick trees to my house. I sighed. "You sound depressed," Sean snorted through the mind link. I buried my head in his thick coat. "I got Bryce in trouble with his dad." "Of course I will be. I think Bryce has a mind of his own, Em. He knew the consequences to seeing you alone, especially at night." "It's not your fault." Sean tries to ease my worries. He slowed down when my house comes into view. "Don't eat yourself up about it. Alpha won't punish Bryce. He loves his son." Sean uttered through the link as he came to stop just below my window. I nod, sitting straight up as he lowers to make me get off his back. I sighed heavily, feeling my chest tighten. Don't want him to lose the respect of his pack because of me. Sean's snort nudges my leg in a comforting way. He won't. And I believe Bryson would rather choose you over the entire pack. I run a hand through my hair, my heart clenching painfully. And that's exactly what I fear, Sean. I don't want him to choose me over the pack. Sean nudged my thigh again. Don't give yourself a headache, Em. Bryson would kill me if he finds out I dropped you off and you suffered a headache. I laughed and nodded. Sean and I spoke for a few before he left when I got safely into my room. I debated if to leave the window open or not. I didn't want Bryce to get into more trouble with his dad because of me. Yet I didn't want him to be even more upset tonight. With a sigh, I decided to leave the window open as Bryson instructed me. Changing out of my wet clothes, I strut to my bed and settle under the covers. I tried to stay up to wait for him, but I ended up dozing off. I rouse awake when I felt a strong arm wrap around my body and pull me flush against a toned, hard chest. I breathed in his scent, the scent of pine and mint comforting me. I let out a breath, curling closer to him as his mouth touched my forehead. Sleep, Em. I'm here, he whispered, running his hands through my hair. If anyone walked in and saw us in this position, they'd think we were way too intimate to be considered only friends. But the thing is, Bryson always held me like this, and it had become normal. I bring my nose to his chest, breathing in his comforting scent as I dozed off into a peaceful sleep. The next time I woke up was when Bryce tried to get off the bed without waking me up. It was already dawn, the sun was just about to peek out. The faintish yellow glow beamed in my room. Bryson cursed lowly when he noticed that I was awake. Sorry, Em. I didn't want to wake you. I smiled softly, pushing myself up, using my hands, my lids still a bit heavy with sleep. I looked at him playfully. "You're so damn huge, it felt like an earthquake was happening while you were trying and failing to roll off the bed," I joked. His green eyes narrowed, and before I could move out of the way, Bryson lunged for me. I squealed as he cages me between his arms, caging me by pressing his body between my legs. His weight on top of me makes me shudder in pleasure, his scent overtaking all of my senses. My heart began to jam in my chest. His green eyes were darker. The irises swirled with the presence of his wolf. "You want to know what else is huge, Em?" His eyes were now noticeably darker, flickering with fire. He growled lowly, pressing his lower half between my legs until I felt the unmistakable feeling of his hardness rubbing against me. My eyes widen and I gasp. 18. Emily's Pav. My breathing comes out in short pants, labored as he takes my breath away. I peered into his eyes and they burned into mine. I should push him away. I know I should. With his birthday coming and the ripe age to get his mate nearing, Bryson was obviously controlled by hormones. There was no other explanation, which is why I should push him away before I get selfish enough to see how far he would go with me. But before I could push him away, Bryson's hand crawled under my bottom, moving all prior thoughts of pushing him away. He gripped the mound, pulling me up against him so I could feel him more. His eyes locked on my features, waiting for my reaction. I could only moan. Embarrassingly so. He seemed satisfied with my reaction because he dipped his head in the crook of my neck and darted his tongue out. The tip brushed against my neck. That sensitive spot that strangely tingled. I grabbed his shoulders. He felt so huge, so hard, so good, and I felt wet. And I was so sure he could smell it. And perhaps that's why he growled so low in his throat, his canines so sharp tracing my neck. "Do you feel me, Em?" I moaned, nodding. Oh God, this is so wrong. We were not mates. And this was the first time we were so intimate. This shouldn't be happening. Bryson just couldn't handle these new emotions. He'll regret it if anything were to happen. Push him away, Emily, before you fuck up your friendship. My mind roared in my head, reminding me how fucked up this would be if I let him do what I want him to do. Of course, those words faded out the second Bryson rolled his hips, dry humping me and groaning. This was so damn hot, but so wrong. Yet, my legs locked around his hips and I pushed myself up, rubbing against him too. Bryson's hips rolled faster, harder, until he was doing a thrusting motion. I bit into my bottom lip, a scream curling up my throat as pleasure mounts in my body. His grunts were sexy. The way his hand squeezed my ass was hot, while the other crawled up my body, sending shivers down my spine. The air crackled around us, and all we could hear were the sounds of our pants bouncing off the four walls of my room, until he groaned my name and said those words. Fuck. I want you. I froze. It wasn't him who really growled those words out. It was his wolf, which led me to believe Bryson wasn't really in control of himself. And as I had feared, his wolf hormones overpowered his senses. I swallowed, blinking. I retract my hands off him, the fire in my core sizzling down as I uttered softly, "Stop, this isn't you." My hands are flat on his chest to push him away, but I can't seem to go through with it. My fingers were touching his hot skin and I could feel how quick his heart beat in his chest. It was just as fast as mine. When Bryson heard my voice, it was enough to make him stiffen in realization of what we had done. He slowly pulled away, reluctantly, as though he really didn't want to. He removed his head from my neck, his face coming into my vision. His eyes are almost back to normal, and I'm so ashamed of what I had done that I tore my eyes away from his. He doesn't like that and growled, pinching my chin and bringing my head to face his once more. Don't hide your pretty eyes from me again. His voice is husky, making the air catch in my throat. But then he said those next words that completely catches me off guard. And who said this isn't me? What made you think I didn't want to do exactly what I just told you? His head lowered, his eyes still connected with mine as he continued to take my breath away with his words. I don't want to only fuck you, Emily. I want to make love to you. 19. Emily's POV. I gasped as I woke up, my heart jamming in my chest. I blinked as the sunlight streamed into my room, nearly blinding me. I stared at the empty spot beside me, where he laid last night. I reached out and touched the spot. It's still warm, which told me Bryson had just left. I touched my cheek, shaking my head with a smile when I felt some of his saliva still on my cheek. Of course he left me a parting gift in his Bryson old-fashioned way. But the smile leaves my face when I realized the spot between my neck and shoulder was still tingling. So was it not a dream after all? Did it really happen? I shivered by the thought of Bryson and a loud knock to my door interrupted my thoughts. Emily, you're going to be late for school. Mom's voice filtered through the door. I winced. I'm up, I shout as I throw the sheet off me and rolled out of bed. When I got downstairs, Mom was in the kitchen, whipping up some pancakes. She looks up when she heard my footfalls. Her eyes narrowed at the booty shorts and tank top I had on. You did not seriously just sleep in that. She shook her head. My brows drew together. Since when does she have an issue with the way I go to bed? I've been going to bed like this since forever. Our body temperature didn't exactly help my case either. What's wrong with it? Sleeping beside an unmated wolf without a bra and shorts that barely cover your bottom isn't a good look. She wasn't exactly judging, but I could hear the mild irritation in her tone. But then her words registered and I flushed when I realized Bryson and I were caught. We never had that problem before. I uttered lowly as I stepped further into the room. She sighed, as if she was tired of talking to a child. I love you. And I love Bryson. But there are rules in the pack you must follow, especially when an alpha's reputation is concerned. She shook her head as she got out the pan. He'll find his mate soon, and things will change. I just don't want you to get hurt, baby, she said softly. I gnawed on my lips, knowing she was right. Tearing my eyes away from hers, I mumbled, I know. I'm sorry. She let out a breath. I won't tell your dad, but you should probably put some boundaries between you and Bryson for now, okay? I nod. That means no sleepover and none of that noise. She warned. My eyes flicked up. What noise? Mom looked rather embarrassed to respond. I heard moaning in there. Whatever you two were doing, it better not be what I think it is. My mouth parted. Was the dream somehow true after all? I shook my head. It was impossible. It felt like a dream. I think you heard wrong, Mom. She gave me that look that showed she didn't believe me. I'm no teenager, Emily. I think I know what I heard. Just be glad your dad didn't hear. This stays between us. After a few more lectures, Mom told me to get ready for school. I was happy to get out of there. The more I stayed, the more embarrassed I got. I got ready for school, throwing the strap of my bag over my shoulder when I heard a car horn. Bryson. He's here to pick me up. I raced down the stairs, taking 2 at a time. I'm off to school, Mom. Aren't you going to have breakfast at least? I'll get something on the way. See you later? I yelled as I got out the house. I rushed down the steps, bounding over to Bryson's car. His tinted windows are up, but I can smell someone else was here with him. I opened the passenger's side and freeze. Maya? She grins at me. Alpha Brent told me to tag along with you two from now on. I looked over her shoulder at Bryson, who looked annoyed with his jaw ticking. Get in the back, Maya. I want him to sit beside me. He didn't spare her a glance as he spoke, but his words seemed to not sit right with her. Her eyes gleamed with frustration. I'm already here, Bryson. M can sit at the back. It's not the end of the world, she retorted with a smile on her face. Maya, Bryson growled. I should stop them before they argue. It's fine, Bryson. I won't die. I giggled to cut the tension as I walked to the back seat. I got in, and Bryson's eyes met mine through the rearview mirror before he started the car. They spoke something private to me, something only I should know. My belly took this moment to growl. Did you have breakfast, Em? Bryson asked in concern as he drove away. I smiled sheepishly. No, he nodded. Let's get you something to eat then. 20. Emily's Pov. When we got to the diner, the place was already buzzing with a few kids from our school. They were mostly human. The rest were a couple were people. The place was literally packed. I squirmed closer to Bryson when a few straying eyes flick over to us. I hated attention. Bryson ordered for me, not bothered at all by the stares he was already used to. Cookies and cream milkshake with a few chocolate chips and French toast. I smiled. He knew me so well that I didn't even have to tell him what I want. Maya looked at Bryson expectantly. What about me? What are you going to order for me? Bryson shifted away from the counter, sparing Maya an annoyed glance. Your tongue isn't tied, Maya. I'm sure you can order on your own. He comes over to me, interlocks our fingers, and walks away from a huffing Maya. The place is so full that it's a struggle to find a vacant place to sit. Maya is hot on our heels, looking for a place to sit as well. She finds one and calls us over. There are only 2 empty seats. Maya looks up at me in pity, tilting her head. Looks like they run out of chairs. Go have a look around them. Maybe you'll find one close by. No need, Bryson uttered, shocking both Maya and I when he reaches out and quickly tugs me to sit on his lap. In seconds, I'm burning brightly, my eyes on the table as I blushed from head to toe. Bryson, I began to whine, but he wraps a strong arm around my torso and holds me there. I don't mind him, he said hoarsely. But no buts. It's not a big deal. He cuts in. Not a big deal? Did he not see how everyone was looking at us right now? I can practically feel the stares burn a hole through my head. Stares of envy, irritation, and shock. All made my stomach twist in nerves. I get that Bryson was troublesome enough to poke the bear being the entire werewolf community that didn't see it appropriate for me, and him to be so friendly when the day to find his mate was quickly approaching. But did he have to? Now I was going to be the talk of the entire town, werewolf and humans combined. My heart raced and my fingers twisted. I didn't want to cause a scene by fighting to get out of his hold. Not that I think I'd manage to. Bryson was pretty strong. So I stayed put, knowing deep down I wanted to be held like this by him. Maya, on the other hand, sent both Bryson and I a sharp glare. Get off, Bryson, she hissed lowly. Bryson turns more firm. My heart skips as his chin rests on my shoulder. This seemed intimate, and I was sure looked even more intimate from others' point of view. Rumors are going to spread like wildfire. Bryson and I were going to be in trouble. You'll have Alpha Brent furious Bryce. She was right. Alpha Brent was just following the rules set in the werewolf community. I know he meant no harm. He wouldn't want his son to have a bad reputation or screw up his mate bond. If I were him, I'd do the same too. I don't care, Bryson grunted, annoyed. Maya shook her head. But drop it, Maya, Bryson ground out, using his alpha tone. Maya submitted quickly, bending her head in shame. Bryce, I should probably just go in search of an empty chair now. He squeezed me. You're staying right here. I gulped, hating that I can't stop my heart from beating for him. He keeps making it difficult for me to not love him. I didn't want to make him angry, yet I didn't want to make his dad angry too. A soft, feminine voice cuts through my thoughts. I looked up. It's the waitress with our orders. She places them on the table, smiling politely, and leaves a few seconds later. I reach out for my smoothie, but Bryce beats me to it. I looked at him confused, only to see his eyes glowing playfully as he brings the straw to my lips. I raised a brow. I think I can drink on my own, Bryce. He says nothing, just pushing the straw gently on my lips and smiles. If I didn't drink, he'd not give up. With a sigh and a roll of my eyes, I took a sip. Bryce's eyes dropped to my lips, staring intensely when I push the straw away. But he surprises me when he reaches up and brushes his thumb over my bottom lip. With his eyes shining brightly, he lifts that finger into his mouth and sucked. The air gets stuck in my lungs as I watch him suck the little bit of mess I left on my lips. His eyes danced, a smirk rearing on his face. "You're such a messy eater," he joked, winking.